What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Salt Mine. This is Season 5, Episode 1. We have finally made it. It's a really, really long season for our longest season we have ever done here, with how long the off-season lasted and how much off-season content we actually ended up making with ACL and everything. But it's officially time to begin a new season. We've got the whole crew here. My name's Gordo. I am joined by Quax, Slayer, and TDS. It is Tuesday the 18th when we are recording this, so still a little bit over a week to go until the NACL starts, but we have scrims tomorrow, and I am traveling this weekend, and I want to get the edit out in time for people to be able to watch this before the NACL kicks off, so going to maybe be a little early. There may still be more news that breaks. In between now and then, we are going to be, maybe operating on some rumors about rebrands that at this very moment have not been officially announced. We will be talking on rumors on some rosters that at this point may not have been fully announced. We'll do our best to call those out when they happen. And of course, we will probably not even be power ranking a certain Pulse Star roster that is currently being completely rebuilt. That is a roster we have no information about right now, with the kind of ongoing Pulse controversy. If you're out of the loop on that, check out Season 4, Episode 22, where we talk about that with Colomer. But there's a lot going on, and they do not have a roster at this moment, so kind of have no real way to power rank them.
It
I'm
seems
loving
like
Older Arc, by the way.
I don't know. It seems like it's really hard to kind of tell who is actually going to join this team, because I think a lot of people are immediately going to assume that, like the top team from like the open qualifiers that didn't make it is probably going to join. I would tend to agree, except the team that barely did not make it was Citadel, and I am going to go out on a not so hot take / limb here and say like 4 out of 5 of these guys want the money, right? Like money matters to most of the players on Citadel. And money probably matters to most of the players on a lot of these top teams, right? Especially if they've got veterancy. I think Pulse is definitely going to have to rely a lot on like newer prospects in order for them to field a semi-competent roster once NACL goes. Just a lot of those players that want exposure. But even then, we're hearing from the grapevine that a lot of those newer players who, haven't even gotten to the NACL yet are saying, like, I don't want my first experience to be on Pulse, or I don't want my first experience in the NACL to be on an unpaid team.
Yeah, my feeling at this point is that if you are still in the Tier 2 scene, you probably shouldn't be in it for the money anymore. You probably will not be around to see a time when Tier 2 players are making a reasonable wage again. You will either go pro and it won't be your concern anymore, or you will probably have been phased out by the time anything more sustainable has come into place. So I don't blame players for signing with Pulse, whoever does end up signing with Pulse, but I also won't blame players for not signing with Pulse, right? Like there is a lot of controversy going on here, and I do not think they will be able to sign players like the Citadel roster, who I think are concerned about how much they're being paid, and based on the numbers I'm hearing for Pulse, very likely will not be willing to play for them. So they are likely going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel here a little bit, and I kind of have to put them 10th. I will happily power rank them below AMI.
I agree.
I feel like 10th really is the only place that you can rank them, because we literally don't have any information, right? Like even if even if this was a team where like they had the same situation but circumstances were different and they could pay, it's hard to put this team anywhere, right? Because we simply have no idea. Like even people who are like good, like professional leakers in the tier 2 scene, or people who usually can tell us this like tier 2 stuff, don't know, right? So it's hard to put them anywhere else other than 10th simply, because not only do I think they're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel, like you said, Gordo, but just because we have no idea who they are going to pick up, right? So it's hard. I kind of just put them as like an N/A. Like I don't know. So
Yeah,
I
I
would
think
say
that's a
10th.
fair one.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm on 10th as well. I honestly think 10th is probably where I will put them. Like obviously I'm pretty sure they're going to pull off a Maribel slash Dragonsteel like last split and 3 days before the qualifier announced when we already kind of knew the roster and then out of nowhere we don't know the roster anymore and it's number one instead of
What is
number
that be
10.
something?
Yeah, but like I don't think that they're going to get good enough players that they can be above the eighth seed mark. And even then, like I was already of the belief that even if they get like the top squad out of the qualifiers, which would be Citadel, I wouldn't be like putting my money on them being straight up just above the relegation mark. Nothing that they cannot be that level, but we have to remember that they didn't qualify for a reason. Like it's not like they only lost to Tempest; they lost to other teams as well. So I would be willing to put them like a team that can play it out, but certainly every kind of aspect makes me go against it. And then like I just don't think the teams that would be remaining would be above the quality that is. Like their previous team was already good enough quality, and they were getting some players that I don't think they would have had access otherwise. Now that their condition is barely any money and barely any reputation, like it has to be very, very, very limited the pool of players that they can get. Maybe they pick up like a random collegiate roster and they play with that, which could happen, but like it's just so
I
difficult to look at it.
I think what's more likely is honestly like we were talking about this a little bit before we went live, but like potentially like another AoE situation where we just see them like cycling through players and going through like players and just like kind of
Do we have like a
match
record of how many players AoE cycled to see if Polestar can break it?
Is it week one they have to have?
three
Or
players. But
yeah,
I
three.
feel
So
like
you can.
I feel like rules are gonna have to be bent for a team like this simply because
Well, they already are.
They already are, yes.
yeah, like rules have already been bent, so I feel like now kind of all bets are off, and we are going to see this team sort of just this team is going to be like water. They're going to be like completely formless, and I do think that is not only going to apply to the roster building, but I also think it's going to apply to the gameplay, right? Because obviously, when you're like switching people out, putting people in, and like constantly like flipping around your roster, you don't give players time to gel. And I feel like that's part of the reason why we saw AoE not do so good in summer. We didn't really see them like gel as a team or as like a unit because the unit was constantly changing. So I think more than likely Polestar are going to have a similar story going forward. If anything, I could see this team, mix and matching similar to what AoE did.
Yeah, the other thing here is the traditional 4 of 7 rule is for teams that promoted in freshly. Since they acquired the spot from Cincinnati Fear, they should effectively have an unlocked roster. It's like freshly qualified teams can't make changes at all until they play week number 1, but this team should be able to swap out all 5 players if they want to, and they kind of already have, right? So they're effectively Cincy Fear's slot as far as the roster rules are concerned.
I think we can just go. We're just gonna go in circles on this because like we just don't know anything. And there's like a lot.
One more thing I do want to add, just to put salt in the fucking wound, is if this team had stayed together, if we had gotten the roster that Pulse had promoted, and then said was going to be their NACL roster in 2025, I would have probably put this team like 4th or 5th. Like I'm not even fucking with you. Like this team looked so damn good. I'm really sad that we didn't get to see it. That's just the last thing I wanted to add. Like if nothing changed and everyone was happy and Polestar was competing with that roster of like Toasty, Alex, Cryer, etc., would have put this team like 4th or 5th. I was super excited. So
yeah,
just
definitely
trying to make you all sad.
Definitely changes the old power rankings. But I think the prevailing thoughts are just like I'm with Gordo. Like guys, it's like feels impossible to get tier 2 spots, tier 3 1 spots, or like an even crazier fallacy. If you want a shot at playing tier 2 and you think it will boost you up into playing pro, like take Polestar's spot. Like as long as you're doing it for that selfish reason, I'm fine with it. And then if you don't want to take it, like you're right with us. We got you. We're all on the same front. So like I hope whoever is getting approached with these options don't feel any outside pressure. Just like think what's
best for you.
Care about more.
Think entirely for yourself. I agree.
Yeah. Do what's best for you. I think that if people go out, like I've already seen so much shade and shame thrown at like Polestar staff, like Chris Sunga is their like the creative director or like the head of like the creative stuff. And I've been seeing a lot of people like shitting on people like him. He doesn't have any decision making on the business side. So I really like this is not just like a call out to the players to do what's best for you, but this is a call out to decent human beings. Don't attack the players who fucking decide to go on Pulse. Like you probably couldn't even make it on a pro team. So whatever.
All right, well, let's get things started with Apex Mission Impossible. This team is Decoy, Low Jazz, Phi Mini, Baz, and Pocus, freshly qualified from the OQs, a team filled with rookies to the NACL. I have this team 9th.
I have them 9th as well. Congrats, guys. I'm sorry.
9th. Look, okay.
Wait, TDS?
I have them 8th.
You have them 8th? Right.
Yeah, I think it can be better than one of the other.
I think I know who he has 9th, and I can't wait for him to say it.
Right. Well, you're right. TDS is the highest. TDS gets to start.
Yeah. TDS.
Yeah. Play by the rules, Quax. I know you're the youngster around here.
So certainly one of the main things that keeps me from putting them higher, and has to be the reason why you guys I think put them lower, is that they are 100% rookies. Like nobody has experience here, nobody has played at this level before. This is their first attempt at going into this. Obviously, another thing that we talked about with Calmer this week that can pull people away from this team has to be the way that they qualified. Not saying that they don't deserve it, but certainly because of strength of schedule, some people may have their doubts about them because they didn't bid like it wasn't upset after upset after upset for AMI. It was a pretty straightforward road, which they fully deserve the way that they win it. But you still have some question marks in how well can they do against some of the teams that are here, because these are really, really strong teams in all of NACL. Some teams that probably could have beaten a lot of the teams that were in the OQ. So I wouldn't put it past AMI to have a big amount of problems here. The thing though is that this also gives them the opportunity to be like a complete question mark, because even if they are a question mark for how good they can be, it also can be a question mark for, on the contrary, how bad they can be. It also can be a question mark for how good they can be. And I can see this team being one of those teams where they start really, really strong with nobody expecting anything out of them, and then just inking enough wins that they can keep themselves up, but not enough to be a strong team. Something similar to Maryville when they just got into the league, and obviously they had much better players at the time, but I feel like AMI can do something very similar. I'll be looking out for Phi Mini, by the way. Like my player to watch, Phi Mini 100%. One of the mid laners that I'm more excited to watch, and I think could find a lot of opportunities for a huge amount of growth in the NACL.
I agree with you on like the player to watch. Like I think Phi Mini, and maybe you could yell at me for this comparison, but I think of him as kind of like a more underbaked version of Samikin. I think that's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. Like these two mage players that have their own defined style, is gonna be kind of cool to see in the NACL. So I agree with you. I will definitely be looking at Phi Mini. I'll also be looking at Low Jazz. I feel like it's really hard to watch the open qualifiers and not take note of their jungler, who really, in my opinion, had the most stellar performance of them all. You know, junglers got to stick together. I'm just saying, and I think he really was one of the strongest points for sure on that team. Still is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as is it as objective as I could approach it? I approached it as objectively as I could.
Yeah,
that
objective would be without bias.
Without bias, yeah. So my objective approach at the start of this was like the straight up, like I think that's how Gordo does it, if I'm not mistaken. Like the ranking of player in role,
That
and
is
then
usually
comparing.
how I start, at least.
Yeah, that's how I started this time too. And then I let my objective opinions and like biases and hot takes that I want to press into before the season starts, like fill out the rest of my list. And as much as I love these guys, right? Like I could do the same low jazz speech about Samikin fanboys, Risen Champs League. Like, oh, actually, I don't think I've done that on here yet. So,
well, you
that's
have to have the candle too, like because shit.
No, I'm not a cultist. I'm not.
I think you did it a little bit last week.
I think
You're
I did.
welcome to run it back.
Yeah. So it's so funny. The one point that like I'll always bring up and Gordo always like to bring up from a random Risen Champs League split in fall of 2024. 2023 is this random team that like whose name's Samikin fanboys. We never heard of any of these players. They like surprised us in a playoff run where they nearly knocked off they got close to knocking off a near NACL level squad. Now that team has 2 of their 5 members in the NACL now. The joke was always Samikin. He wasn't named Low Jazz. I think we called him Ben Guy at the time because we couldn't figure out his stupid naming patterns. But Low Jazz is now the second member of that team to make it to the NACL, and that team does have like other kind of tier 3 guys that we like. Like I'm a big fan of the bottom lane they had at that point, which was Devin and Phantom Star. So, so that's cool. Like the ties are here, but I just don't see them like coming in here and wrecking people for a split. This is a first split. This is a growth split. All right. The most important thing you do here if you're AMI is like commit to your identity. Form it into the meta that you see in the NACL, and just be competitive, right? Because the most important thing for me that's going to happen to AMI is they stay competitive, they stay consistent, and then they body whoever they have to play through the promotion tournament. And then the next split, you unlock a lot more of your roster capabilities, and you've had time to like grow and feel out the NACL. And then second split is where we can start having a bit of fun with them. This is the growth split. I'm going to put them 9th for that reason. If I look silly, I'll be happy to look silly because these are tier 3 boys that we've been cheering for over a year plus now.
And I will also say, kind of on that point, I think especially when we talk about the players, it's going to be up to them to show themselves individually, right? Like I think that this team definitely wants to commit to an identity, but I think the players also really want to commit to their own identity because for sure this is going to be, in my opinion, how I'm kind of seeing it is this is going to be a case of these guys wanting to make sure that when they have their shot in the NACL, they don't butcher it, right, individually. Like so I'm looking at like those strong individual performances. I'm looking at them to be defined as players as they are as a team. And I think even if they bomb out, even if it is just like, you don't win a single game and you immediately go to the promotion relegation tournament, at least you showed your stuff. And I think that's really what I'm looking at for this team, particularly in the first split, like Slayer is saying. Because, I mean, I feel like if you go into a room of 100 people and you ask them, where would you put AMI in the NACL, like 95% of them are
going to say who's AMI.
Are gonna and then 4 of them are gonna say 9th or 10th, factoring in Polestar, and then the other one is gonna be TDS who puts them 8th. But like the reason is because if you've paid attention and you look at the road that they took in order to promote, I hate to use the word easy, but compared to some other teams, this shit was definitely easy. Like they went against Canadian Cartel. Red Note was like the hardest team that they had to go against.
Dog fans.
Dog fans.
On paper at the start.
No, I'm not letting this You Should Glaze go.
All right, fine.
You should trade stops here. It's done.
All right, fine. And then Don't Ban Viego, and then Dorado Gaming, and then Dog Fans. Right? So, like, you didn't really go against any of the big, like, 5 teams that we were saying were going to promote into the NACL. And, like, obviously, you promoted, and they didn't. But at the same time, I feel like their road was just a lot easier.
Yeah,
so...
All those good teams should have lost to Dog Fans, man. I mean, that's the...
I don't know, like, yeah, and then they beat Dog Fans 3-2. Like, that series was absolutely insane, by the way. That series, I have never had more fun in a call than watching that with the boys. Shout out to the boys.
That series is so funny because it's what happens when 2 teams who are addicted to prolonging games have to play each other.
They were taking turns. They were literally taking turns throwing, but that's beside the point. I had a ton of fun watching these guys. At the end of the day, if nothing else, I want them to just go out there, do their best as players, do their best as a team, and have fucking fun because they earned it. They made it to the NACL. And honestly, you can't ask for more than that in their position, I think, especially career-wise, where a lot of these guys have not been in Tier 2 before. So yeah, it's hard to put them ninth anywhere but ninth. But I'm still excited for this team. Like, I don't want to act, and I don't want to act up here and say like, oh, these guys fucking suck. They have no personality. They're horrible for the league. They ruined NACL. They didn't.
Yeah, we'll let ourselves get jaded as the season goes on. I don't have too much to add there. I do want to give props to Baz specifically. He showed up big time on that last day, especially. I don't think you can count on him showing up like that every week, but that was a really great run for him and was a big part of AMI making it. I also want to use S5E1 as a jumping off point since we're right at the start here. That this is, I think, the most rookies we've had in the NACL probably ever. There are 13 new players to the league by my count, and that's without no.
Well, are you counting the near? Are you counting the near airport players that haven't played in NACL?
Only TF played.
Only TF
Okay.
played.
I am counting Decoy, even though he played 1 to 2 games the last split. But past that, I've got Decoy, Low Jazz, S5E1, Baz, Pocus, Aojun, TF Blade, Stray, Asilo, Shogo, Hoarder, Wilson, and only 35. That's 13.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that is crazy.
And it's definitely going to grow to 18. Like, it's come on.
Maybe like 17. Maybe 16 or 17. Maybe
I say 17.
Maybe
All right.
some real washed guys in there.
We're just taking we're taking pot shots.
We are. Yeah, so a lot of new players this year, and particularly of interest there is the mid lane pool. It's kind of the start of a new era for NA mids. Think about it. There's 3 borderline LTA guys in Insanity, Spyrex, and Pobelter. There's Sword and Dark Wings, who are kind of known quantities. And then there are the other 5 guys, right? And there's Samikin coming into his sophomore split, and 3 to 4 rookies based on what Pulse does. So this would be where AMI has space to grow, because it's not that hard to imagine a world where S5E1 outperforms Sword, Aojun, Syla, whoever Pulse gets, and Dark Wings, and bam, now he's a top half mid. You know, it's
that is fair actually. Like I didn't think about it like that,
fair.
but now that you say it, I could totally see that being the case for him individually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So just something to keep in mind. I do have them 9th, of course, so I can't cope too hard, but something to keep in mind. Now let's move on to Blue Otter. So this team is Quacker, Music, Samikin, Levitate, and Rovex. It is a full run back of their 2024 summer roster. And I'm proud to say I have this team 4th.
I have them 3rd.
Oh my god.
Oh shit. Okay. I have them 4th.
TDS?
Do we have TDS?
So I'll go. So I was between 2nd and 4th.
Whoa!
No third.
Second fucking place.
No, because I already have my 3rd. I think I'll go. I'll go 4th with it, just because I think 2nd maybe a little bit too high.
Yeah,
so
dude.
far.
2nd should get you arrested. What the fuck?
2nd is crazy, but
Slayer,
Slayer, you win. You win the contest.
You're going to hate me for the 3rd one, by the way. Like I think I'm going to get attacked by this.
You're gonna say like fucking conviction or some shit.
Right.
TDS
wins. TDS does not go with 2nd, so Slayer wins the speaking first award.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yes. So this is predicated on. Okay, I have to say this is predicated on my view on a different team that I'll have to say later because I don't want to just throw out 2 whole points for 2 whole teams in one go. So I'll revisit this later. If you have to rewind, but you probably won't. Blue Otter 3rd. All right, listen, they have everything that I love from a like intangibles test, right? Like this is a roster that's kept everybody together, right? This is you rarely ever see that like. In any level of any League of Legends right now. That rarely ever happens. They're keeping everybody together. They had they had the runner-up and winner of the rookie of the split award by no close margin. It was a debate between Samikin or Levitate the whole time through for most people. Those guys have been grinding. Those guys have been improving. I think everybody has pretty high upside on this roster to continue to improve, except maybe some people don't think the ceiling of Quacker has been reached. I'll accept that. I still think the ceiling of Quacker is, at his best, a top half top laner. And then you go down the rest of this roster, right? Music might be one of the most, from what I've heard and what I've seen them interact, one of the better shot calling leaders that NA has in developmental right now. For how, I know he's not the youngest guy, but like for the level of play that he's gotten to experience, to already have these intangibles, like that's why I'm saying it's impressive that he is this kind of leader for that team already. That's a big thing that I look for, right? Is like a big, like a doesn't have to be veteran, but like a big voice in the call that like is keeping everybody afloat in chaotic games. Which Blue Water already showed that they could do that in their rookie split, so that improves. The big point here for me is I think Samikin absolutely explodes this split. I think this is Samikin's split to take over. Samikin was good, sometimes meh, sometimes great in a split that people need to remember was dominated by marksman mid laners. The last time we saw him in NACL was when you were running 280 carries the entire time. Corky was dominating. The mages kind of fell out of favor. And there were a bunch of answers to the marksman mids that also pushed the mages out because the mages couldn't really compete with these marksmen in the mid lane. They'd lose. Yeah. And Samikin was still very effective, playing out of his complete playstyle. We are now going into a meta where it is way better suited for Samikin's playstyle. Way better suited for his control, his mage-based playstyle with the Zoe. Can still play the Corki. I think Samikin goes absolutely crazy. That's like the tip of the spear for me, why I think Blue Water gets third. So I think Samikin is the big point forward for me. Levitate keeps improving. I know I've got some Rovex lovers on this podcast as well. So Levitate and Rovex getting more time together in the bot lane. There aren't a ton of bottom lanes like right now with how chaotic it is that I would put ahead of Blue Water. There are some that we'll get into later. All this coming together with the coaching that I like, Thinocle Phil, maybe we stay away from some of those slated 6 drafts we saw. Just jokes. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then, you got Sneezes, you got the analysts. And you love Blue Water, man. Like, this is the last point. I love Blue Water. Like, the org is so cool. Bully's awesome.
The most important point.
Bully is always transparent. He's also a hilarious Twitter follow, and it's just a feel good org. I actually, if I didn't get back and immediately record this podcast, I'd probably be wearing my Blue Water jersey this episode. So all that together, I'm putting them third, and I'm riding it out. I will sink in the Blue Otter ship. I do not care. Third place finish.
So I love Blue Water too, and I think every point that you made was really good. Like I agreed with every point. -1. Listen. I really like Levitate and Rovex, but I do think that they are going to be challenged in the bottom lane this year. Like, more so than they were last split. Like, I think bot lane duos have leveled up from summer last year to now, right? Because obviously, you've got some of the strong ones still. Like, obviously, Scary Jerry is no longer here. Sajed Zyko, I would say, is on the level of Scary Jerry Zyko, so there's no change there. Tactical Zazel is absolutely fucking insane. I would say that was better than the bot lane duo that Cincy Fear had, right? In like last split summer. Like I would put them above them. Like Double If Biofrost is obviously definitely not to be trifled with, as we saw in OQs. Even like Shogo Rhino, I don't think we're necessarily expecting like an insane split from Super Ole Miss, but I do expect this bot lane to be by far their strongest point. So I will say Levitate and Rolex will be challenged a lot more, and I do think they'll face those challenges in stride, but won't necessarily be as strong. The last thing I heard, and the thing that at least for me, put forth for them, I've heard that their scrim record is not great. I think you guys have also heard that as well.
But that was true last. It doesn't matter.
I'm not a scrim Bucks person, but if it is super crazy on one side, like if they're winning everything and they're losing everything, then I feel like you have to factor it in slightly. So that was factored in.
Exactly like what someone that takes Screambox into account would say.
I take it into account. TD, if I took it into account all the way, this team would definitely not be fourth. This team, because they're losing everything, right? They would be fucking like close to last. They're not close to last because I think this team has a ton of potential, like Slayer pointed out. But I do think that the potential, it's going to be hard, I think, to see this team's ceiling just beating out the other three. Because I think there is definitely a divide between the top three and then like everyone else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, music is just excellent. And with both carries entering their sophomore split, it's a great opportunity to see some development from them. I don't go quite so hard on Samikin. I don't think he's bad by any means, but I'm not fully sold on him being like LTA ready this year or anything yet. He could prove me wrong. But I think it'll be tough for him to break into like top 3 mids. My big thing is they were 5th place last split, and 3 of the 4 teams that were better than them are boom, right? Fear's gone, Fly's gone, and Supernova's a totally different roster. So 2 more teams that are strong have entered. So they're 4th now. Yeah, that's just math.
I think that's kind of the consensus with a lot of these players, like minus music. Like I think music cracks top 3. Maybe. Dude.
I think it's the same spot. I think it's the same spot.
I think his chances of cracking top 3 are a lot better than his teammates.
All right, let's move on to CCG Esports. So this roster has not officially announced their lineup yet, but all these players were mysteriously absent from open qualifiers, and I do believe this team has competed in some scrim blocks with this roster, so probably pretty safe to go out on a limb and say it is going to be the team CCG is running. It is Crimson, Dardoch, Aojun, Array, and Breezy from top to bottom. I have this team 6th.
Anyway,
I also have them 6th.
I have this team 6th.
So I was looking at all the rosters. I think they are 7th for me, and the reason for that goes with because I think that I think Conviction will be a slightly better, and I have my reasons for that as well. I think like mathematically, yeah. So in order of the teams, I think Conviction will be above them, so that's why.
I'm gonna call out really quick. I didn't reorder my table, so we will cover that team second to last as Tempest Gaming. But we are hearing that they have rebranded to Conviction.
They are Conviction, yes.
Yes.
Sorry for the alleged rumors.
It's okay.
Yeah, so
by the time this episode drops, I bet it will be announced.
Let's hope it.
But I'm gonna have them as Tempest in the run of the show. I'm not changing it now.
So the reason for 7 has to come because, like Quax mentioned it, the bot lane, mid lane, and a little bit on the jungle. I think so. CCG will have
the players they have on their team.
So I think they are not necessarily the strongest in the roles, particularly. And one of the main problems that I have is like the bot lane actually is not going to just be enough to stand by itself. Because I think I look at the other bot lanes in the on the rest of the teams, and I think 7th is around where I put this bot lane. Not saying that they can be better, and I've always been a huge Array believer, but the other bot lanes have shown up really, really greatly, and I think this is a place where if CCG cannot perform to a higher level than I'm expecting them, then I think 7th is where they'll slot in. Because Crimson has been great, but I don't think he's the best top laner, top 3 top laner either. So it's a place where I don't see them being carried with. And Aljun will have some growing pains, because even though I think that he has a lot of potential, he has never been like one of those utmost like mid laners that you're looking out for when you're thinking about like the next upcoming mid laner. Like he's great, he can be good and he can be great, but he's not the next thing, right? And I think that for him there's going to be some growing pains that if he can overcome them, then I can begin looking at him in a different light. But it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And then Dardoch is quote unquote a known quantity. And the last time that he was here in the NACL as a jungler, that team went, I think it was 9th. So
Well, he was barely. He didn't start jungling until the promo
he
tournament.
didn't
He was
start jungle,
support.
but he did. But I like that team didn't play well with him in jungle. I remember those matches a little bit. So
Yeah, but that team like
put him
rebuilt
there.
at the last minute to
True,
try
that's
to
also
desperately
true.
avoid relegation with him.
But I don't think, like, just looking at it, I also think Dardoch would slot around like the 7th place jungler when looking at the rest of the competition. So I just feel like it's not going to be like different from other members. Like, I don't think it's going to be that effective for CCG Stram around. And I think 7th is around right. I would slot them effectively, especially considering that I think Tempest will have a better roster just because like the reasons that I mentioned are going to put them above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll let you go. I'll let you go, Gordo.
All right. First off, I do want to say, cool team, since I and everyone else am a bit higher on them than TDS. I do really appreciate that they kept Aojun and Array after kind of trialing them in ACL during the offseason. If Pulse had never existed, I wonder if this team has Kryra on it still. But I said didn't exist, I mean, like, had they never signed these players at all, not just had they never boomed. Then this team would get to run back 4/5 of that ACL roster with an upgraded support. I do appreciate that about this team, that they have used off-season leagues and dev rosters to kind of build up their team. This is their second split of NACL, and I obviously project them to finish higher than they finished last season, where they got relegated. And if they keep that up, I think that's a good method to be competitive on a budget. Don't get me wrong, I love Blue Otter running it back with the power of friendship too, but I do appreciate CCG keeping one eye on tier 3, even though they aren't really one of the big spenders. I think Aojun is pretty hype too. Of the rookie mids, I think he is the one I am most excited for. I think he gets better every tournament I see him in, culminating with that ACL title in fall. So I'm definitely looking to him to be a player that can make a big splash for this team if they end up exceeding where we've ranked them. I am starting them a bit low compared to all this praise. I think they definitely have one of the higher ceilings, but there is nobody on this team I'm currently projecting to be like a top 4 player. Maybe 1 or 2 that I'm projecting to be a top 5 player. Aojun could be in that same category I explained for Mini earlier, where if you're better than Dark Wings, you're probably a top half mid. So that's within grasp for Aojun to lead them to higher highs, but I'm going to be starting them at 6th.
The points that I want to hit home, to piggyback off of the first thing, the CCG like mantra of how they approach orgs, you praised Gordo. Yeah, I've heard that from Krim, their owner, for a while. That's why they have like the futures teams they've always had in a lot of the tournaments they participate in Tier 3. So glad we shouted that out. I think this is the biggest split of Crimson's entire career. I think Crimson needs to either show here that like he can be the LTA-esque prospect that he's been pegged to be for way too long. Not his fault, by the way. Like just the nature of his family. So I think this is the huge split because like he's had time in the NACL now. He's had time, developing with CCG, playing with like pretty high level competition. So this is the one where I need to see him like take a big leap.
Yeah.
That's why I think it pushed the CCG ceiling. I'm also a little bit higher on this bottom lane than like what TDS was saying, mostly because of Breezy. I think Breezy is finally going to get on a team where like he can show his strengths the most.
He's a top 5 support this split.
Yeah. I would agree. Right. So, and I think he could go. I think he also has like that's not his ceiling. Is what I'm trying to say. Like we haven't seen him on like a great situation team. So I think Breezy can play a pivotal role in this team. I'm glad Dardoch's back in jungle. This is the first time we're in a while where we're gonna see like Dardoch scrimming in NACL as a jungler. Looking across this roster, he's 1,000% their shot caller by a country mile. Nobody else is like probably leading this team in game. Looking at the roster, I don't know though. I might be wrong. DMs are open. Flame me. Comments. Flame me. So what does a Dardoch jungle pointed led team look like? I know technically there was a Lotus roster, like that is the caveat where he was the leader and they didn't qualify, but let's see how he looks with higher level players around him. There's a lot of upside for CCG that's being slept on. Unfortunately, though, I could not put them higher than 6. But I do think there's a higher ceiling than like Gordo said, like I would have seen with the CCG roster in past.
Yeah. I think, at least for me, this team, like we said, they won ACL, right, with a core of this squad, right? Like Crimson is the same, Aojun is the same, Array is the same. Dardoch and Breezy are different, that they weren't on the CCG squad in the ACL. I would say Breezy is an upgrade, and I would say Dardoch is a side grade. I think Kryra is actually really good. I think a lot of people would actually say Dardoch is a downgrade, and I think I disagree with that.
I would say that if forced to make a decision, I would say that, but I don't think anyone should be being confident in that one way or the other.
Yeah, no, that's not. You cannot say that with absolute confidence, in my opinion. So I do think Dardoch's strengths as a shot caller and being very, very vocal are definitely going to complement this team. That said, what's stopping them is simply the fact that I don't think these players crack, a certain ceiling. Like I can't see Crimson being a top 3 top laner in the league. I can't see Dardoch doing the same. I can't see Aojun doing the same. I'm a little bit lower on Aojun than a lot of you guys. Like, obviously, he won ACL, and he showed a lot of promise in the most recent ACL split. But I don't know. I feel like the mid lane pool, this split in particular, is better than what we're used to. Like, I think that there are a lot of mid laners that are actually really good, and I don't think Aojun is going to be able to measure up. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I honestly would like to be wrong, because I think Aojun, like Gordo said, is newer in his career, and we need players like that to do well. Array and Breezy, I think, are going to be a good bot lane, but kind of to hit on the same point that I said about Levitate Rovex, there are also a lot of really good bot lane duos that I simply don't see them being better than. So this team is like basically middle of the pack for me, right? Like I can see them beating who we project them to beat, losing who we project them to lose to, not doing anything too crazy. The only independent variable that I can see being, very out there is potentially, Crimson, but I feel like that's hard to see. So I would say this team I have the least. I would say this team I have the least to say about. Right?
I'm interested in pushing you on one point a little bit. So, do you have Aojun below Asylum?
I do not have Aojun below Asylum.
Do you have below 5 mini?
I do not have him below 5 mini.
So you gotta have him at least 6th, right? You gotta have him above.
I think he is like. We'll touch on Winthrop later, but I think that him and Sword are going to be similar. I don't think he'll be as good as Darklings.
Okay, I don't either, but interesting.
So,
I have Sword below a lot of these guys.
Like I think a lot of these, I think a lot of these players are just hard capped in their ranking player wise. Like these guys are all relatively the same skill level in my mind, in their roles, and they're relatively the same skill relative to competition. So, following kind of Blue Water logic, I put these guys 6th.
All right, I think we can move on there. Let's get into Dark Zero, as I believe they will now be known. These are the artists formerly known as Dragonsteel, the artists otherwise known as Maryville University, so they are switching orgs. I assume that Brandon Sanderson is not especially interested in what may potentially be an LTA team next year, so all the costs that go along with that. Dark Zero is an esports org. They are probably best known for Rainbow Six. They play Apex as well, so welcome to League of Legends Dark Zero. I'm going to plant my flag here. I have this team first.
Okay, I have them second.
TD?
Okay. So this is a hard one for me. I think I had them second, but they can go lower than that, actually.
Okay. Quax?
I would say second, but they can be lower,
Quax,
yeah.
I feel I'm trying to read Quax right now. Oh, he's holding a 1. I'm an idiot.
You have 1. Let's go, brother. Let's go.
So, all right. I'll take the reins on this one.
Sure. You're welcome to it.
I'll do it for us, bro. All right. So, the biggest tragedy of this team is the fact that they're no longer called Dragonsteel. I fucking love that name. I thought it was metal as hell. Dark Zero is
wait, this roster. It's Zamudo, Yuji, Spirax, Sejet, and Zyko.
Got it at the end.
All right. So, yeah. So Dark Zero, very similar roster to what we saw last split for Dragonsteel, Maryville University, whatever you want to call. I'll just call them Dragonsteel. Like the only change is Sejet, right? And I think that a lot of people, when they were looking, when we were doing like power rankings last year, right, on the 80 carry role, we were saying Scary Jerry was number 1, and Sejet was like always right below him, like literally on his tail, like attempting to bite that shit and just grab on. And now he's finally on the driver's seat because Scary Jerry, praise be the Lord, he's in LTA North. I think Sejet is going to fit into this team like a glove. So I think in regards to like, will they be weaker? Absolutely not. The one thing I will say is not only do I think this team will be first, I really fucking want this team to be first. Like these guys, this team has, I think, 4 players that I could realistically see, and I'm not going to name who's the one I don't see going into the LTA. This team has 4 players that can realistically make it into the LTA within the next year. 3 of which I think should be there right now. And I think them being able to beat Luminosity and Near Airport would tell a lot of people that, North America does have a ton of talent. So I think that the symbolicism, as a color caster, you always got to fall in line with the stories, the narratives, what have you. And this team has an amazing narrative if they win, which is like this team winning would be symbolic, I feel, of North America's talent pipeline working, being able to beat some of the best people that have been in the LTA. So not only do I think this team is going to win it all, I want them to win it all. And I feel like anyone who's a fan of League of Legends in North America and just a fan of North American talent should want this team to win as well. So I'm going to judge you a little bit if you don't put this team, if you don't want this team to get first, I should say. Maybe you don't put them first, but you should want this team to win, in my opinion.
I want them relegate. No. So, I want this team to win. I want this team to win again. I want this team to win again so that everybody in Tier 1 can look silly for not promoting Yuji. I want this team to win so everybody can finally understand that it's Zamudo's time to promote now that he's back to back at, well, definitely after he wins like 2 titles, right? One of them with the Finals MVP, another, like potentially another one.
Do we get a fucking Garen and Udyr top, by the way? I gotta say, like.
And most importantly, I want this team to win so that everybody can see that I was right about Sejet the entire time. Because Sejet is nasty. Sejet will be an LTA 80 carry someday. I am so confident in it that, well, okay, he will at some point be considered like he should be an LTA 80 carry. All right, like I'm trying to say that the only reason he might not be is because
this is the LTA, baby.
This is the LTA,
this
baby.
Is the LTA,
right? So,
baby.
all of that. So I want them to win. I'm with you, Quax. I agree with Quax in everything except for the fact that I think this NACL split is going to be marked by a movie in the Star Wars franchise called The Empire Strikes Back where the villain wins. So I won't say who the villain is. It's kind of obvious, but yeah.
There is a villain.
There's 2 villains. I think a little
Yeah,
bit.
There's a villain and there's an anti-hero.
Okay. There is a very okay. The reason that they're like the Empire is because they have all the resources in the world. This is why. That's why.
That is
I've
true.
linked my villain to this villain.
Sure.
that we will have.
Sure. All right. Dragonsteel. That's what we're talking about. Going back to back. Fuck you, Luminosity. Zamudo's the best top in the league. Everyone else on this team is at least top 3. I actually think Sejet could be an upgrade to this team. We talked a lot in prior episodes about how Scary Jerry was kind of more of a lane dominant player with like the Lucian Nami lanes and the Callista lanes. Well, Sejet has always been a little bit more of a team fight monster. I actually think that could be better for this team in regards to like odds of winning NACL. Having the late game reliability to be a monster in team fights, they've already got plenty of ways to get ahead early with UG Spirax as a jungle mid and Zamudo becoming a better laner seemingly by the day. I don't think this team needs to be slamming all 3 lanes all the time. Right? kind of skill set has somewhat diminishing returns when compared to what this team needs is a player who can clutch up in the 5-on-5 and mog on everybody. And I think Sajet is that guy. I'm very excited for this team. There are very legitimate arguments for every team in top 3. But I choose NA talent. I choose to stick with my biases, and I am going with Dark Zero.
It's hard not to put these guys in at least the top 2, I feel like. If
Agreed.
you put them third, you better have like a fucking master's thesis ready to explain yourself. Anything lower than that, you should go to prison. But like this team is... I'm really excited to see this team run it back. I think that as I said, almost all of these players deserve to be in LTA. Like, I think this team, org, whatever you want to call them, they house the future, to be honest with you. And like them getting a good start here, especially against well-established pros.
Especially after Pulse had the future and
Especially
just
after
smashed
Pulse
it.
had the
Now-
future and just smashed it.
We got a
Now-
straight up, dude, a bullet goes into their foot every time we talk about a team. I love it. Yeah, like the narrative around this team is just, it generates hype. It excites me. And no matter what fucking name they go by, they're always going. I'm always going to be excited to see this team perform. But I will say, again, dude, fucking, I wish we had Dragon Steel, bro. That was the coolest name ever. Why is life so unfair?
Dark Zero's
It
not
was
bad.
better.
Dark Zero's not bad, but Dragon Steel is just so much better. Especially because they were the best team. Like, imagine saying that shit. Like, EU is like, oh yeah, our best tier 2 team is Carbon Corp Blue. And then you've got like the LCKCL. Oh yeah, our best team is like non-shim Red Force Challengers North America. Our best team is fucking Dragon Steel, motherfucker. Aura off the charts. Like, and you cannot even argue.
Before we move
So
on.
I do have one,
Go
and the
ahead,
reason
yes.
why I'm thinking about why I would put them a little bit below second place, and it's not that I think they're bad, but like I think Sajet's change may impact the team more than we're thinking about, because it's not a straight up like a huge downgrade from Scary Jerry. It was the first AD carry to the second AD carry, so quote unquote it will be a downgrade just because it's 1 to 2. Like it's bound to be a downgrade, sadly. But I think the main thing is that I feel like it will impact the way that Dragon Steel does play, because first and foremost, Scary Jerry and Psycho were not only clearly the best bot lane, but they won their bot lanes. And that meant a huge difference for a lot of how Yuji played the early stages of the game, because it was a lot of how he played with Spyrex to make essentially bot lane be a complete domination, and then top lane Samudo was doing pretty great by themselves. The thing is that one of the main things that Sajet did at FlyQuest Challengers was him playing bot by himself, allowing Chime to roam around and giving the extra pressure all over the map. Now, are they going to variate from that? Because I think Psycho is capable of playing the roaming style support, right? But it's a different way of trying to
He was
attempt
like
it.
just
Because
as
then,
good at it.
yeah, no, it's not that he's not good, but Scary Jerry was also an aggressive AD carry even by himself. Sayed is not that. Sayed is not going forward even when he's by himself. So that means that in that sense, it's going to be much more difficult to like play certain situations where you're going to either leave Sayed by himself and not get any big lead from it. And if that's the case, because Sayed is a later teamfight AD carry, like how are the resources going to be given out, right? Because Yuji is a carry jungler. Like he is much more of the carry style jungler. He can play the supportive style, obviously. But is he willing to give up the extra resources to accommodate for Sajet and change his dynamic in the team as well? And that's the sort of things that are going to be impacted. And I think that for the starting part of the split, we're going to see a much more, I would say, timid, potentially, Dark Zero in that sense. And I think that that's going to take away some of the advantages that they will have. I think going into playoffs, they will be much better. But for starting it off, I feel like they can be perfectly between second and fifth place. I can see them all the way down there as well.
Fifth place is wild.
All right, let's move on to Luminosity. Luminosity, newcomers to the league, purchasers of AoE's spot. This roster will be plenty familiar to LTA fans, as it is a roster of Fake God, Tomio, Insanity, Tactical, and Zazel. I have this team controversially second.
First.
TD?
It's a one that I would like to say below that, but I think they're more than likely going to be first.
Third.
Third.
Yeah,
you know
Third.
what? You know what?
All right.
No, I'm not going to go. No,
Don't-
you know what? Screw it. No, you know what? Screw it.
Don't-
Fifth.
Whoa, what the fuck?
yes.
He just
Fifth?
wants to talk about them first. He wants to talk about them first. He wants to take it away from me.
Well, Slayer has them first, so I'm actually gonna let Slayer
Well,
start.
Slayer has them first, so
Yeah.
actually gonna let Slayer
I can't
start.
leave Slayer, you have to
TDS
talk
gonna
about-
I wanted to
You can't
walk
leave Slayer,
off.
you have to talk about how
my
this team's the
stomach
best.
Okay. I'll start this off by saying,
Fifth!
da, 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 da. Like, this is the Empire. This is, you know,
This is
the
the
villain.
Empire. Really, this is your Empire.
This is the
Yeah,
Empire,
because
yeah.
the resources
Empire,
there, I thought they
yeah.
gave it away. Because you know they bought this roster, they bought the spot, they could buy everything. They could buy a death ray to blow up planets or the NACL. Yeah, so I'll keep this one like brief. I guess I'm chalk on this freaking podcast now. Why did I just censor myself? This fucking podcast. I mean, I personally just think like, first of all, Tomio and Insanity are running this league. They are running this league.
Yeah.
Like, except maybe like Yuji. I like Yuji can compete with Tomio. I'd like to say Music can. But no. Like Tomio and Insanity are disgusting. It hurts my soul to read their names in this league. Like that's the level I think about Tomio and Insanity. Tactical, one of the most hated Tier 1 NA players of all time, maybe. Does not mean that he won't just body kids in Tier 2. So
We'll get there eventually.
okay, all right. So if you want to buy into the fact that he's going to troll some games in Tier 2, that's fine. I don't think he will. I think he's going to be pissed off he's down here. We'll have he's getting paid to be down here. Probably the best of anybody. And then Zazel's a guy that I've been on this podcast saying is a Tier 1 support. Pretty great leader to have in your corner for a pretty long time. So Fake God is the one guy that I think is the outlier for how well I think the whole team will play. I've not necessarily been the highest Fake God guy for a while, but still is a top 3 top laner in this league. Like the whole thing for me is like you got to keep the scope of the fact that like some of these guys were impressive in the LCS because that's the last time we've seen them play, and the ones that weren't, I would argue, were on teams that really made it hard to judge them, like Tomio, most importantly. I'm also talking about Insanity was the most impressive player. Quax, as you're making a gross face at me. I just think the Evil Empire has been scrimming, getting ready for this. They know the goal. Like if they want to stick around, like Luminosity has to get the LTA spot. That's the entire reason why Luminosity is here. It's the entire reason why they bought all of these players, and I think they will accomplish their goal. I'd like to be wrong though.
So, listen. I'm going to go on a bonfire level train here about this bot lane. Maybe not that much, but I will say I am really not high on Tactical and Zazel. Look, I like Zazel as a player a lot. I don't like Tactical very much as a player, but I will concede that even if you these guys have to totally be top 3 bot lanes in my opinion. The thing is though, I just don't see Tactical Zazel being able to beat Sajed and Zyko and potentially double lift Biofrost. I think that Near Airport is a team that is progressively getting better as time goes on. They have struggled a little bit, but I think that this team certainly is this is something that Grapes kind of said, where he was like, this team is going to scale, right? And I feel like we're seeing that in real time. I feel like every time we see them, every time they scrim or every time they stream a scrim, or every time they show up on a stage. Yeah, I'm talking about Near Airport in relation to Luminosity. They are progressively getting better. I think Sajed and Zyko are already, in my mind, they're the best bot lane in the league. And overall, I simply don't think Tactical and Zazel are going to be able to beat them out. I think the only player on this team that is the best in their role is Insanity, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think Yuji is better than Tomio. I think Spica is better than Tomio. I think Fake God gets his shit ran in by Zamudo. And if TF Blade keeps playing how he's playing, who knows? But I'm just saying, I said who knows. I didn't give you
Okay. Keep going.
But talking about all the theoreticals here, I really think that the only thing I'm confident on is Insanity's ability to be like a huge mid laner. And I don't think it's enough for this team to get first, unfortunately. So like this is a team that I also kind of want to do well. But like a team that I just want Dark Zero to beat. Like honestly, again, this is another thing where it's like if Dark Zero beat this team, these are all very well established, tier 1 players. But like the reason I was making that gross face at you, Slayer, is because have these guys really had a successful LTA? Like if you look across the board, Tactical in his first split. Like
Zazel has.
There's a
Tactical
difference.
has two.
Tactical has two. It's
Wait,
not been recent.
I'm going to fight you on this. Zazel's success was all the way back in 2018. Guys,
Yeah.
COVID happened, okay? These nuts is no longer funny, all right? The world has moved on, motherfucker. So Zazel, I think it's really unfair to compare himself to like a bajillion years ago. Tactical, okay. The reason I think this guy never had a good year in his fucking life is, and I'm being a little cruel here, but like his best split was when he had Core JJ as a support. And Core JJ, when Core was like a god amongst men in the support role. Like this was like the best version of Core in the LCS. He had Tactical as his ADC, and it felt like there was a significant shift in performance with Team Liquid because before Tactical, it was double lift, and the team looked marginally better. Like everyone remembers like 2018 Team Liquid, right? And the Tactical comes in, team doesn't look nearly as good, right? They made other changes, but that's beside the point. Since then, Tactical has not looked good since Core JJ was his fucking support. And I think Tomio, it's a little unfair for Tomio, right? With the whole, like, obviously, Gordo, you were super critical on this, and I'm with you. But, like, I think Tomio is best described by me as kind of a gatekeeper, right? Like, I think Tier 2 and Tier 1, he really skirts that line, and I haven't really seen, like, things that suggest otherwise. Insanity is the only person that I put in, like, definitive Tier 1 category, like, at this point, a definitive Tier 1 tier. So, I don't know. I think this team, as the years go by and the players get older and, things change, I rate these players lower than necessarily you guys would.
Yeah, I mean, I'll back down the point, like, they've been impressive in Tier 1. That's fine. You got me there. I just still want to make sure to preach the scope difference. Just everyone keep in mind, like your points are not wrong, Quax. It's just like if this team comes out and like immediately murks, everybody does. It's like the prevailing thought's going to be, well, yeah, it's a Tier 2 league. They were Tier 1 play. Like, just make sure to keep that in scope. Also, last thing I'll say is Insanity to the Moon. Let's go, Gingers.
Yeah. All right. I'll just say I agree on Insanity. I think he's best in role. I also think Zazel is best in role, regardless of your opinions on him as a Tier 1 player. The last time Zazel was in Tier 2 in 2023, he was running this league, and our support pool was way stronger then. We had Diamond in the league then. We had Smoothie in the league then. We had Winsome in the league then. We had Chime in the league then, and those guys were all way better than the pool is now, and Zazel ran them, so I'm coming in pretty high on Zazel as the best support in the league. I think Zyko can maybe challenge him based on some of what we saw last year, but my default is going to be that Zazel is very high up there. I do agree with some of the Tomio naysaying, though. I mean, I crashed out over Tomio last year, as Quax referenced, because I think that whole move was an abomination, just a terrible use of resources by Shopify. They could have been used to do something legitimately good for talent development in this scene. But as an individual player, Tomio was not at the top of my list for promotion from 23 to 24 anyway. I did not go back and rewatch our picks for LCS episode back then, but I'm fairly certain he was on the list, but he was not at the top of it. I had XU higher, Shaden would have been higher. Obviously, both of those guys are in LTA now, but Yuji was clearly better at the time. I think Perry was better at the time. I was higher on Keel at the time. So both guys who have promoted and guys who haven't promoted, I felt were better candidates at that point. So I'm going to be coming in under the assumption that a year on the bench on a bad team has not made him better. So I'm going to be starting Tomio as like my fourth best jungler or something. Maybe he surprises me, but even when he was winning those back-to-back titles in 2023, he was on real stacked teams, and he was not at the top of my jungle tier list. So I am not going to put them here or put him there now. So that's kind of the cope that I lean on to put Dark Zero first, more so than it is a condemnation of Luminosity.
All right,
That's fair.
let's hear
All right,
fifth place Luminosity 2DS.
Okay, so I also realized that I kind of screwed my rankings, so it should have been fourth place, but I'll leave them at fifth because I want to see the word burn, and it's kind of
Jesus
funny.
Christ,
I know
alright.
that way.
Okay.
No respect
So-
to the sanctity of our group rankings here, but okay.
No, on the contrary, I respect them so much that I'm not willing to now change what I did before.
That's fair,
So
that's
they
fair.
are stuck at fifth. So here's the thing for me. Like, obviously, this is looking like one of the most stacked rosters we have here. And obviously, it looks like this could pretty much go straight up into qualifying. But one of my main gripes with this roster is some of the time that some of the players has had between playing and not playing. And this may sound contradicting between what I'll put at first and this roster. But the thing is that, like, at the very least, the first roster has played recently. Like, some of these players have barely played at all in a while. And that's why I'm kind of feeling curious here. But also, and you
Is
touched
that even
on-
true of anybody except for Tomio?
So I think Tomio and Fake God, because Fake God, I'm pretty sure they didn't play last split, or did they actually?
played on
I'm blanking
Shopify.
on it.
He played on Shopify.
Oh, he played on Shopify. Yeah, actually, I was actually blanking on it. So yeah, so it's only Tomio, but it's one of the most important roles that you cannot blank on actually.
That's fair,
because,
that's fair.
like, I think Yuji is above Tomio. Because above Tomio, I would be willing to put Music even above Tomio at this point.
Same.
And like he is like having a jungler that is not top 2 for a top 1 team is something scary, like quite scary. Like it happened similarly to Shaden last split, where I think he was playing around like that level in the first split, but then going into second split, his level went down and the team went down with him. Like, obviously, Quad was not there, but Shaden's level was down as well, and that impacted in general. So I think that may have an impact as well into what may happen with Luminosity. And also, I do think that they are not going to be the strongest bot lane, nor the strongest top lane. And I think that that's also going to take away some wins from them. I also think that for why I put them, like, quote-unquote, third, fifth, or fourth, fifth, and the third team, I'm pretty sure everyone is going to say, how the hell are you putting that team third when you're putting Luminosity fifth? I think that like having played together does have an impact in some of the standings here, and we have not seen like Luminosity play together at all. So I'm having a lot of doubts into how this team can end up working out together, because like at the very least, for how far I can remember, I don't remember Tactical Cecil being a dominant kind of bot lane duo, or at the very least bot lane players, and I don't remember Fake Out being a dominant kind of top laner either. So it's all on Insanity and Tomio being able to dictate the pace of the game for the rest of the map to have that impact. And then if Insanity is controlled, or Tomio is never allowed to do like a lot, I can see this team being pretty like not easy, but something that you can in a straightforward manner try to control and not allowed to do a lot early on. Like later on they can destroy you, but I think early on there are a lot of manners to just control them.
I disagree. But
I think a lot of people will disagree. Like, hey, I'm behind the fact that I think a lot of people will disagree with me.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's out there. This is something you get to hang your hat on if they end up sucking. All right, let's do it. It's near airport time. This roster is going to be TF Blade, Spica, Pobelter, Double Lift, and Biofrost. I cannot believe it myself. I have this team third.
I have them fourth.
Yeah, it plays in first.
Yeah,
First?
Quax.
First.
Yeah.
I have them third. So wow. incredible diversity amongst
All
the
right,
cast.
TDS, you have him first. You get to lead us off.
Yeah, TDS.
Okay, so here's the thing for the reason why I have them first, and it goes a little bit on hand with the previous roster. It's the playtime that they've been having with themselves is quite good. So already, like at the very least, setting themselves up for success in my mind. And then one of the other things that I think it's quite important is, like I mentioned, having a strong team that will be able to deliver, not only because they are known to be players that can deliver, but I think Spica will probably be the best jungler in the league. Bar like it's between Yuji and Spica, and Spica already showed that he didn't left at all in the OQs. So it's between the two of them for top two, which I already said that it's important to have that. But I think by also people are taking away a lot from Powelter. Like I think Powelter has been playing really good, and I don't think anyone touched him really when talking about the OQ mid laners. Now, obviously, OQ to NECL, there's going to be a divide, but I don't think anyone was even close to Welcher when taking into consideration the OQs, and I feel like he can really effectively just be fighting for that top two spot as well as a mid laner. And he's consistently playing the game. He's been consistently top of the rank as well. So it's not like he stopped playing like potentially someone like Biofrost, who may have stopped for a little bit and then coming right back, but he gets to lane with double lip, so at the very least you get that kind of taken away from you. But Welter has been consistent in that, and I think he is going to be a player that people are going to maybe take credit away from, but I feel like he will have still a huge impact here. And Speak Up Welter will have a huge impact on how this team will play and will run the league. And also, I'm with Quax. I think TF Blade looked not only better than I thought initially, but I also think that there were barely any top laners that did anything to him at all in the OQs. So here, I'm putting him I'm putting him below Zamudo, maybe Fake God. I think around the third, fourth top laner here. Because there's also not that many top laners that are like straight up monsters as well. So I don't think that he's going to have a huge amount of competition either. So that's why I think that like Near Airport can essentially slide there based on just like the fact that they've been performing really well so far. Scrims, I barely take them into account because like they will not have stage jitters at all. And then like they've been ramping up a lot. Like I love the way of putting it, like the team that has been ramping up or like going towards the later stage of the game, like this team is going to keep on ramping up 100%.
I will give Slayer his chance to be lowest ranking on this team in a moment. I do just want to call out real quick based on your Pobelter point. While I was impressed with his performance in the qualifier, he did have a pretty soft run of mid laners in the tournament. Just since we made that same point for AMI, he did play versus Shochi on Respawn, which was definitely his toughest matchup, but his promo series, he played against Dun. So you do have to take that into account somewhat. But go ahead, Slayer. You're the lowest. You earned this right.
So to immediately respond to the TF Blade stuff, TF Blade had a softer run than Pobelter did. I would consider it. I understand you went against Moose Hater. Moose Hater is the best player you went against. I know you played against Lawrence. So Lawrence or Moose Hater, whichever one of the two you want to throw up there as the better top laner you played against. Still, I would consider, mostly because I don't think Moose Hater is like at prime chaotic NACL Moose Hater we used to see. I think like he hasn't been playing as much. You know, he's obviously playing on a team with his friends. So I take him down a couple of pegs. So I think the best top laner that TF Blade played against was a tier 3 gatekeeper top laner is basically what I would consider the level of. So I think TF Blade might get exposed a bit more than we think. I don't want to discredit the fact that he didn't play very well. I agree. He was very impressive. Exceeded all expectations for his qualifier run. I may look silly. But to get back on track to my main point here, this was the caveat that I teased for Blue Water with putting them third. I am not convinced that Near Airport is going to try to really compete in this league yet. I unless I have not heard anything, and I can be corrected, we are still operating on the idea that Double Lift says the Near Airport is still shaky on what they're going to look like in NACL. I get that we've gotten updates that they're playing because they joined the NACL server. Like, they're going to play. But they've talked about how a lot of them have other real-life things to deal with. It's one thing to come in and say you're going to play this often, you're going to commit to scrims this often, you're going to play midweek all the time with the same roster. I have too many doubts that we're not going to see this starting 5 all the time in the NACL. And if we do, I still have doubts that they're going to be practicing and scrimming as much as the other teams are and adapting to as the meta changes, as the season changes. I'm just not sold that we're going to get the full force of this near airport roster in the NACL. And I'm also convinced that, like, do these guys actually want to try to promote it to LTA?
Actually, I was going to ask that. Like, do you think any player wants to promote? I think one wants to.
Like, yeah, like TF Blade would want it, right? Like, but or like
actually, I was thinking Spica.
Okay,
I was thinking
sorry,
Spica.
yeah, Spica. Sorry, yeah, that's a good point. Spica does, but like, I just don't believe that Double Lift, Pole Belter, and Bio like want to go play Tier 1 League again.
I think Pobelter does as well. I think people forget because it's been a while, but Pobelter never retired. Something you can't say about Double Lift or Biofrost. Pobelter never retired, and he left the league kind of kicking and screaming. He left the league tweeting about how NA owners only care about washed imports and are age discriminators and don't pay heed to the fact that older players can still improve. He had to be kind of dragged away from comp, and I think he does want back in.
All right, so this is why I enjoy doing podcasts with Gordo, because he grounds me. But still, I still think the prevailing point is we are not convinced the entirety of the 5-man roster listed wants to be Tier 1 League of Legends players again, or Tier 1 League of Legends players at the very least. Like, I don't even know if like we assume TF Blade does, but like content creation money is going to be better than whatever you're getting in the LTA, my man. So
that's why why the fuck do you think like Casual does what he does?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So all that being said, is I'm gonna be the loser with the asterisks here. So, like, I think if this team at full strength is gonna, I'm gonna agree with all the points Gordo and Quax are like about to make about this, and some what TDS was saying about this team, because I think at full strength they are competing for the LTA spot. I have yet to be convinced that that's what we're gonna see all season, so I'm docking them on my power rankings because of that. And if I'm wrong, it's an obvious reason why.
Yeah. So here's my thing. First of all, I got to bring the metaphor full circle. I agree with Slayer that Luminosity is the Empire. They have all the resources. They can be the bad guys. Near Airport then is like Jabba's palace, right? They're old money. They're starting the pod race in Phantom Menace. They're still running things in Jedi. They do not care. Governments rise and fall around them. They don't give a shit. They operate independently. But they're still villains to our hero Dragonsteel or Dark Zero.
Am I?
Ewoks.
I feel like
Ewoks. They're the Ewoks.
Oh God.
I'm sorry for anyone that reminded something.
That's good. All right. But look, I said this team in OQs, and I still think I'm kind of naysaying them with third, but this is as low as I can put them after OQs. This should be a lesson to all of us. Pick any sport. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care how washed your goat is. He's playing out his last years before retirement. If you throw that guy back into college, he will ball the fuck out. And that's what these guys did. They were just much better than the competition on a raw mechanical basis at every turn, in every play, in every lane. And it was tough for even teams that we were like very excited about to not just get blown out of the water in 1 to 2 positions at least every single game before playing as a team even mattered. I think they're going to continue to be able to do that to like 4 or 5 teams in this league. Double Lift's a hell of a player. Pobelter's a hell of a player. Speak is a hell of a player. TF Blade appears to be pretty good, and we'll see how he does against the NACL tops. But, these guys, they struggled in scrims against teams like Supernova, but I do think they are stage players to some degree, though, and when they've locked in and tried to win, they've been very, very good, and they need to be respected. My level of respect for them is putting them third for right now.
Is that if like the team is not great, like maybe we can get a kind of similar to Breaking Point with TF Blade as the star of it from Near Airport. I think that would be great content if it doesn't work out.
They could. But I do want to make one more point, though. And I keep saying this. I said this on NACL as well. And I always say it in a joking tone because it is funny. But I am completely serious. TF Blade is a hype as fuck rookie in the NACL. Twitch Rivals and Tyler 1 Championship Series do not fucking count. Being a sub in name only on TL Academy in 2018 does not count. I don't give a fuck how old he is. Fuck that age discrimination bullshit. He is younger than Music, who we all love as a prospect. He is brand new to real comp, and he is shitting on everybody so far. He can develop. I'm excited to see him develop. He's as much of a rookie in this league as anybody. He's more of a rookie than Decoy. He's played fewer NACL games than Decoy has. I don't give a fuck about how long he's been streaming or who his teammates are. He's a real rookie in this league, and we should get excited about him as one. This is a totally different caliber of play than we have ever seen this guy play before.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah. I'm cautiously optimistically excited.
All right. We've talked about this team quite a bit.
All right. I thought Quax had something else to say there. Let's get into Supernova then. Supernova, Sharknova, Supernova X Ole Miss, whatever you want to call this team. I think they're just gonna go by Ole Miss. This roster is Stray, Keel, Asyla, Shogo, and Rhino. I have this team 5th.
I have them 5th as well.
As well.
Okay. TDS?
I'm third.
We have your
Third!
Hang on. Okay. Hang on.
First of
I
all-
think I know why TDS is going to have them third. I'm going to call it right now. You're putting them third because these guys have played together for a while, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yes, but also I do think that being one of the how to put it, like they are one of the few collegiate rosters I have confidence that not only can perform well at this level, but also that I can see them getting better as well in the process. So here's my logic for it. Like we need to remember that they technically are taking a newer jungler into this dynamic, which every one of us kind of thought that was going to promote as well. A jungler that was considered to be one of the next ones to jump up to go towards tier 1 in the form of Keel that like he's giving it another shot here in the NCL, and I hope that he does great. And then also I think Syla particularly, I don't think that he's going to be straight up just the best mid laner, obviously, and I don't think he's going to be like a top 2 mid laner either. But I do think that he can fight for that top 3, top 4 position. Like because I do think that he is a much better mechanical mid laner than Olmes had before, and I think that his room for like upside is quite high when considering like the not that much experience that he has had in competitive as well. Similar to Mini, but I would say like he has had a much quicker jump to competitive compared to Mini, and that's why I'm valuing him much more right now. I also think that they will have one of the stronger bot lanes. Like Shogo and Rhino, I think that are going to be quite strong, and this is going to be crucial for this team. My main worry and my biggest worry has to be Ray, and the main reason for that is that even though I do think that the competition in top lane is going to be much weaker in general in the NCL, Stray is not necessarily like one of the top laners that I expect to see pop off or anything like that. Like he's going to be consistent, but it's going to be difficult to see him being above the other top, like the top 4 top laners. I don't see him being above at all. I can see him being above the lower ones, but I'm also like I don't think he's above Crimson or Denethor, for example. Like I think he's about the same to them, if not just a tiny step below, and that's the scary part for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you go, Slayer. I think.
No. You go. I'm gonna say something first, really quickly. Friend of the podcast, Collimer, you cannot flame us. None of us have your team 8th or 9th like you were afraid of us doing. So we're not there. So.
And a little bit of a fuck you to Shogo if he watches this. King of soft drinks. King of soft drinks.
No.
Okay? It had to happen. All right. Anyway, I will speak for Gordo and Slayer because he's currently not here.
Why are you speaking for me?
Because I feel like
he's
he's
speaking
gonna
for
get
me?
like a
Shogo, I got us.
Hell,
I got us, Shogo.
zero sugar. What the fuck?
I got us.
You're the biggest
got
pussy
us.
I've ever met.
Shogo knows. I got
No,
us.
you're good. You're good. Okay. the reason I have this team, so TDS, your biggest concern was about Stray. My biggest concern is about Asyla. And this isn't a concern like, oh, I think he's bad. This is a concern of literally, I just don't know how he is going to stack. Like, I don't have an idea of how he's going to stack up against some of these mid laners. Because while I think the pool in top lane has gotten weaker, I think the pool in mid lane has gotten substantially stronger. And I do think that a player like Asyla, who is new to the competitive scene, just period, right? Like, this guy hasn't been new to the game. Yeah, like straight up, this guy has not been playing for very long. He's been playing competitive for not a lot of time at all, and he's improved massively in CLOL. Like, if you've watched any tape of Ole Miss, like Asyla Struggler, whatever you want to call him, Asyla, please change your fucking name. He's really good. He's really fun to watch. He's improved a lot since he got to Ole Miss. Whether or not that improvement allows him to go up against some of the heavier hitters like Pobelter, Spyrax, hell, even Samakin and Darkwings, I think if he can punch to the level of Samakin and Darkwings, this split will be a success for him personally. I do think, though, that Ole Miss, Supernova, as a team, everywhere else looks pretty strong. Like, I think Shogo in particular... Dude, I'm praying like Eddie Brock in the church in that Spider-Man movie for Shogo to have like a good split, because I want this guy to be an LTA one day. I think Shogo has the personality for it. I think he's got the skill for it. I think he's got the recognition for it. All of his ducks are in a row. He's just got to perform in tier 2, and I think he'll be able to do that. And 80 carry role right now, the 80 carry role is super duper fucking stacked, and if he can punch to players like Double Lift or Levitate, then I think, similar to Asyla, it's a successful split for him. So this is certainly, I think the first few weeks are going to, this is a team where I think we certainly should not judge them in the first couple of weeks, right? Because I can totally see them scaling, adapting, and making changes where need be, whether it be in meta or just, how they're playing the game. Because, this is just how Ole Miss has always rolled, right? Like, they are really good at improving at things. I mean, Colomer is a super good coach. Like, we had him on last week. There's a reason why he's a reoccurring guest. He's really smart about the game. So
he accepts our invitations.
And he accepts our invitations. He also invites himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's at the status where he, invites himself. Which we enjoy, by the way.
We're fine with it.
Yes, we love you, Colomer. So, I do really want to see, similar to Dark Zero, I want to see this team succeed. Right? This isn't just where I think, objectively, I will place them. I want this team to do well. I put them 5th, but I wouldn't mind them going higher. I wouldn't mind TDS being right and these guys making 3rd, and then maybe, Luminosity or Near Airport, go blind and deaf and just, randomly shit the bed.
Hell yeah.
I want the boys to succeed. What else can I say? Everyone likes Ole Miss. If you are a fan of CLOL, you are a fan of developmental League of Legends, you like these guys. It's just a fact.
Yeah, I want to respond to the Asyla point a little bit. First off, I'm pretty sure I'm higher than consensus on Stray. After watching ACL last split, I have Stray as the 3rd best top laner. I have him above TF Blade. I watched those ACL playoffs. I watched this guy beat Hoarder, beat Zamudo, beat Crimson, and those are all great players. And there's your NACL trial run right there. All 3 of those guys are going to be in the league this year, and he did very well against all of them. Quite an impressive ACL from him, and he's been improving since coming to North America. So I think he'll be great. I'm not worried about him. Asyla, I originally shared a lot of the concerns that Quax voiced, and I think that period where we thought Shochi might join this team made a lot of sense because Asyla is so new to the scene. But that said, I watched the last scrim block they played against Near Airport, which was last Friday, so it'll have been a week ago when this episode drops. Go watch Double Lift's VODs if you want to see it. I didn't watch super closely, but I skipped around a little bit and I checked out some scoreboards. And Asyla, is he falling behind a Pobelter? A little bit. Is it unrecoverable and they can't win against a team like Near Airport, which all of us except Slayer has top 3? No. They won that scrim block 4-1. Asyla isn't slamming Pobelter in lane, but he doesn't need to. He's doing well on his Lysandra. He may go down 15 to 20 CS from time to time, but it's not sinking the team. They still go 4-1 in that block. And against Spica Pobelter mid-jungle. So what in this league is going to get thrown at them that's worse than Spica Pobelter? Not much. So, yes, Asila is green. No, I don't think he's going to slam every mid and be the best in the league. But I think this team is aware of that and is very capable of executing around minor deficiencies in mid lane. And I think he slots into this team well, where they will have an identity around him and his pool that makes those weaknesses, which he may age out of with more experience too, not as prominent. So I can't say, Silo downloaded this game 3 years ago, this team can't be good. That is just like not manifesting before my eyes. I have yet to see the scrim block or the series where a more experienced mid just takes a Silo to town and the team cannot recover from it. I've yet to see it happen.
He's gone against like mid laners like Sword, who have been in this goddamn scene since like the dawn of man.
Yeah, he played against Aojun. He played against Samikin in the ACL playoffs, right? That was a 2-0 series against Polestar in favor of Ole Miss. So it's just not something that I am seeing be an issue for this team more frequently than anything else. And this was with Icelandic in the lineup too. This was pre-Keel, so he's got a stronger jungler now too.
I think Keel is gonna be like, okay, I this is not me like comparing the two junglers, by the way, but I do think Keel has a much more level head when it comes to.
I'll compare the two junglers. I think Keel's the better player. No,
yeah,
he's
Icelandic,
but
I think he's the better player, but I do also want to say, like, I think what Keel really brings to the table is just a lot of stability. Like, I think Keel will be able to stabilize those solo lanes that we have, concerns about. And I do think that that'll be really cool to see. Keel also brings a lot of spice that I feel like people don't
the
talk
new
about.
stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, like he'll play random ass shit all the time. Like he's got his own little champion pool, and I think that's really cool. So I think that this team has a little bit of spice to it with Keel's added mix of those unorthodox champs, like you mentioned. The new Gordo is one example, but there are a few others. So I do think as time goes on, we'll see this team. Like, again, do not judge this team in the first couple of weeks, right? Like I think this is a team that could scale up, could level up, and specifically could make really good use of the Fearless format. Like that is not a point we have talked about yet in terms of like how we're ranking the teams. I think Supernova will be a really good team in a Fearless setting, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. To close out Supernova, quickly here.
Yeah.
First of all, one point that is interesting to talk about, especially with the Stray conversations. The one guy who's actually Stray's kryptonite, which I think needs to be considered if we're going to pull, especially if we're pulling ACL talk, collegiate talk here. Denethor is the bane of Stray, which I think we'll talk about.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. But I think like will be fun about the most fun about this ACL thing is the fact that like Winthrop is here and Ole Miss is here, and like Winthrop collegiately have. I think record-wise, they've Kalmar, if you're listening still, like, if I'm wrong, but I thought I read a stat that they've beaten Ole Miss a lot more often than a lot more than
So
like
I think
Ole Miss has won.
recently Ole Miss has won more. Historically, I think they've lost more.
Yeah, but like even the rivalry's still there. Like it's called El Clasico in collegiate. Like they went to 5 when I think a lot of people thought Ole Miss was going to win that series a lot quicker. So I agree with all the points that like. Stray and Asila are like very evergreen, raw talents. Don't know what the ACL is going to look like. I think what helps Supernova the most for me and why they are top half for me is that they had a fortunate draw in what we've been preaching a lot is that the mid and top lane pools in this league right now are in such a wild west era. Like Stray, if Stray was coming into this league last split, the top laners he'd be facing, I would be concerned. If we were talking about last split, even mid lane, I'd be concerned for Asila. But like the point that we keep harping on is like these two guys kind of automatically shift up 2 or 3 spots in my rankings just because of the nature of how many new people are in this league, and especially in those top and mid lane roles. Like Stray gets to go against Hoarder Decoy, like who knows who Polestar is going to be. He's played a lot against Denethor. Like the fact that he already clears a couple of these guys really helps Ole Miss or Supernova. Same with Asila, right? I've been a sword doubter for a while, and then what are we gonna get at 5-minute Aojun? What Darkwings are we gonna get? Like stuff like this really helps his stock as well. So the fact that like their rookies are in a better spot than most NACL splits is really gonna help them. And I know Shogo's a rookie, but does not count to me. This guy's just too good that like that won't be a problem in the first place. The one question I'm curious to see, I know Keel, and I know Keel is a really good player. I think he's going to be a great voice in there. He has looked off to me in the series that I've seen him play. The Winthrop series was an off series for him, I think, up against Wilson. If Keel could get back to the NACL form we know of before, like Supernova are going to have a very good chance to push above 5. But I think for now, like, they're in a good spot because I think there's a lot of room for their solo laners to just cook and play their style, and they're not immediately going to have a bunch of matchups where they think there are nightmare matchups. So, yeah, let's see what Supernova can do at 5. They are a wide range in this NACL.
Yeah.
The good thing about that is that we can either call them Supernova or Super Mace, and I want to use the Super Mace occasionally.
Might have to get that in there at some point. Well, let's move on. Tempest Gaming next, though, as mentioned earlier, we do hear that they are Conviction now. That is not officially announced yet. Maybe it will be by the time this episode drops. If not, you did not hear it here. You heard it somewhere else. But this roster is going to be Hoarder, Kisno, Darkwings, Aaron, and Manui. I have them 7th.
I have them 7th as well.
I mean, yeah, 7th with Gordo.
Yeah, I said they were 6 for me.
6.
Okay.
Okay, so we're close.
God damn, TDS. Okay.
TDS
Why?
we gotta change the rules so that TDS doesn't talk first every time. But TDS, go ahead. The rules still remain.
Yeah, I haven't talked first in the previous to last one, but so here my reasoning for this one has to do with the 3 down there. It's Darkwings, Iron, and Minui. I think these 3 are going to be above the 3 teams below them because I think that their bot lane, mid lane is going to be really good against them. So I think they're going to be better than Ray Breezy. I think they're going to be better than the Polestar one, and then better than the 9th place team. That it's pretty much obvious which is after we have talked about every other team, and this is the 6th place team, the 6th place team. So I feel like they, Iron particularly, last split came in with Winthrop and with Darkwings, and I think Winthrop performed really well because they had these players. So I think that once again, qualified via their merit, performed really good, I think, against Citadel. Minui, particularly with their role swap, had so much of a good impact into the team. And I think that this fits much better into what I expect from Minui. Because as an AD carry, I feel like he had a playstyle that didn't suit an AD carry. I think that as a support, it's much better suited for that idea. And I think that he meshed really well with the idea that they wanted to play with Kisno and Darkwings as well. And then Iron is Iron, Darkwings is Darkwings. And Hoarder was a positive surprise because I was thinking that maybe he could get exposed against some stronger top laners, particularly Philip, and I feel like he performed really good against them. So I feel like in that sense, Hoarder still has that roof to try and go over, but also doesn't need to shy away from going against good top laners in the NACL. Maybe not the Samudos of the world, but the other ones, certainly he can put up a good fight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team, it's a little bit hard to rate them anywhere above 7th because as we've, reiterated so many fucking times on this podcast episode, like, all the players seem to fall into like a ranking placement and, you average it out. That's kind of what it is, right? Like, I think that Hoarder in particular, like kind of what TDS said, I'm really excited to see this guy. I think he has been hitting a wall like over and over and over again. He's been punching it, trying to break through to it, and he finally gets his chance. And honestly, as far as like teams go, like I think this is certainly one of the better ones that you could have made your debut with, right? Like I think Darkwings and Aaron and Kisno at your side, and Manui, like how all of these guys have played in the NACL before. So I think that this will be really cool for Hoarder in particular. I think Darkwings has also leveled up since we last saw him. Like I keep getting impressed with Darkwings. Every time I see him, like, dude, the Cyto Combine, he looked just better than everyone else. Like, and it wasn't even close. Like, he looked like the best mid laner there. Wasn't particularly close. I'm really excited to see what he's been up to now. Like, he looked pretty good on Tempest. Was one of the best players there. I would actually say he was the best player there. I think Darkwings was definitely MVP of Tempest. My biggest concern, though, and I feel like this is something that you guys, Slayer and Gordo, will definitely echo when I say it, is just Manui in the support role. And like Slayer pointed out how the support role is definitely not as strong as it was in previous splits, right? Like we got no Diamond, we got no Winsome, we got no Chime. Like realistically, you've got like Rovex, Zazel, and Zyko and Biofrost on like the top half, but then like below that, I think that there is not just like a gap, but probably like a cataclysmic divide between like the top half supports and the top 5, and then the bottom half supports and the bot 5. Manui is the biggest question mark of all 10 of these supports, though. Like I think he showed up really nicely on Tempest, but like he's still new to the role, right? And obviously, you know, players role swapping to support is, you know, not as uncommon, I think, as a lot of people imagine. Like it hasn't happened in a little bit, but like I would say support is the most role swapped to position.
It is literally happening in the
100%.
LEC this split.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like obviously whenever that happens, you have like a ton of questions about it, and a lot of those questions circle around like, well, what other supports is he competing against? And I think this time around, the support pool not being super duper challenging allows him to find his own way, which is why I'm thinking that Aaron and Manui might struggle in the first few weeks. But I think as time goes on, similar to what we said about Supernova/Ole Miss, this team could find its footing. And my biggest concern, my biggest hope is that this team just doesn't stagnate, right? Like I think that Darkwings and Aaron have a really high ceiling. I think Hoarder has an undiscovered ceiling, and Manui also has, you know, a lot to discover. And I think with so much out there for these players in terms of improvement, that this team might not start off being the best, but you know, if they work at it enough and they find their footing and they find their groove as a squad, I could totally see them blowing past, you know, where we rank them and potentially going higher and making an upset. Like if I had to term this team, a lot of people were low on Blue Otter in, you know, their first split. I would say Conviction is kind of like this season's version of Blue Otter, where I could totally see them going higher, but we're ranking them low.
Yeah, I do. I do want to harp on the Hoarder point a little bit. I mean, I've been following this guy forever. I mean, he was there in not the inaugural ACL because there was an ACL before TDS and I cast it, but went away for a period of time. The new ACL, the modern ACL, that has kind of been one of the biggest Tier 3 events, not run by Riot, in North America. The first version of this, Hoarder won our all-star top laner on a team called Return of the Middle Sticks. So I've had my eye on that guy for a long, long time, and he's, you know, he's tried and failed before. He was a sub on that Team Ambition team that just barely didn't make it, and then he was on that Team Fish Taco team that couldn't quite replicate the success of Team Tony Top, and then he was on that Pulse Star roster that was in promos last year and couldn't make it. And you know, it's often been like his fault too. Like he's been trying to play his style, and oftentimes he would play against, you know, the highest caliber of top laner, and he would just not be up to snuff. But he's made it work now with his style and everything. He had a sick Rumble game. He had a solid Gnar game in their qualifier series against Citadel, and that's against Philip, who's the hardest opponent he has had to play against in one of these qualifiers, bar none. I think Philip is a hard Tier 2 level player. He definitely belongs in this league. It's a shame that he won't be here, but the fact that Hoarder was able to do so well against him, despite the god-awful Nasus game that we're not going to talk about, was really great for him. So it's awesome to see him finally make it to this level and see how he's going to do. Kisno has ridiculous potential too. He was able to get top 10 on the KR solo queue ladder when he went to boot camp there with Shochi and Toasty. Really, really good player. Belongs in this league. His first attempt with Lit was one of the worst teams we've seen in NACL. Sorry to the folks on Lit. That's just the way it broke. So yeah, I'm excited for this team. I think that they can go higher than this. I've said this about multiple teams because it's true about multiple teams, but everyone has to go somewhere. So they will be starting 7th for me.
Yeah. To round out again, I guess, here at this point, I think Kisno and Darkwings are going to be an underrated mid-jungle duo in this league that will perform better than I think a lot of people's standards. Hoarder, I'm glad Gordo. I'm not going to harp on this. Super proud of you, Hoarder. Glad you're here. For a true tier 3 story that you have etched making it here. So have fun. Yes, I'm very concerned about Manui. I think his ability on engage supports in the qualifiers was very questionable. He was in weird spots a lot of the time, and I know like the engage support joke is, oh, you can like take away a couple deaths from engage support stat line because like they're the start, right? But no, that doesn't get the pass here. I am very excited for Darkwings and Aaron together again with more time. I think these guys are going to keep developing, keep impressing alongside Kisno. My concern here with Conviction, I think, is a very fun talking point to track, especially with Fearless as the split goes on. I don't know how this team is going to draft. Well, I know we've seen the qualifiers, but here's the point I want to make really quickly. Manui, engage supports has been questionable. I think his enchanters were very good when he got to play them a couple spots.
Yeah,
because he's an enchanter player, right? Aaron is, very, carry marksman-esque oriented. That's his style. Darkwings can play a lot of things in the mid lane. Kisno is he's got a big pool, but he's very known for his carry champions. I think he's best on his carries. I know like his Kingdred is, you got to ban it or you might lose in the NACL. You do lose in the qualifiers. And then Hoarder's a carry top lane player. Where the hell do we get a reliable engage and tank player? Kisno can do it, but like you're like, if you have to start picking engaged tanks anywhere across this lineup, I think you're either risking it with your support player or you're limiting the ability for your top side to perform well. So I'm very interested to see how this team plays out drafts.
I think that's actually a really valid concern, something that I didn't think about. But I do think that they do have the ability to have like a weak sider, right? Like I think that's kind of what you're getting at, Slayer, where there's like, who is going to weak side on this team? Who's not going to receive the resources?
Who's even playing tanks, honestly?
Yeah, so I think Kisno is a really well-rounded player.
Starwings.
I think Kisno is definitely going to be the guy who will, kind of be on tank duty. Like, you talk about his Kindred. I kind of associate Kisno with champions like Xin Zhao, right? Like Xin Zhao is a champion that I think of very dual heavy, but can also provide a lot of space, can kind of be a frontliner. And, if you have those enchanters that Manui is really good at, something like a Lulu, Xin Zhao Lulu is an absolute death sentence. So, like, I could see that being like a popular support jungle combo that they maybe go for. But yeah, I mean, TDS pointed out, I think Darkwings, particularly in Saito, showed that he doesn't really need jungle's help to get a shitload of resources, right? Like, obviously, it'll be nice for Kisno to visit there once in a while and help his mid laner out. But, like, dude, Darkwings is so good at just, like, this man is like Rumpelstiltskin in the NACL. This motherfucker spins straw into gold. He makes it materialize, and he just carries from there. I think one of Darkwings' best traits, and something that I think is lacking in a lot of mid laners, even in tier 2, is being self-sufficient. Like, I think Darkwings is a very self-sufficient mid laner. I do think that Kisno's job is going to be helping Hoarder out. Like, I could totally see Hoarder being like a side lane menace in this game. Like, if Conviction knows how to play side lanes and Hoarder is allowed to play things like the Jax, potentially things like the Camille, like the Fiora, like a lot of his fighters that he really enjoys, then I think this team could be really good. But it's all in the macro play, right? And it's all in the drafting. So that's personally how I think things are going to roll out. And how I think, like what I realistically think will give them the most success. But, things can change. We can maybe see some different stuff. I mean, we didn't see Hoarder, do some like absolutely crazy, insane 1v9 carry performances in the open qualifiers. Not too often, I guess. So maybe I'm wrong on that, and maybe more attention gets put toward the bot lane. But I do think this team has options, right? Like I think they have more options than we're kind of giving them credit for. And that to me is partially what puts them higher up, right? Like I think that this team is not necessarily as non-linear in playstyle and draft as say a team like AMI, right? Who I can see playing one way and not really being able to deviate from said way.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll end it by saying I think there are concerns that are there, and I'm just curious, especially how Fearless works into their drafting. But I think Bach is a very, very cool coach. Guy was playing in qualifiers for EU and coaching for EU and NA teams at the same time. By the way, that's pretty cool. I've heard a lot of things great about him, so I'm curious to see how he cooks up with this team. It's been impressive so far, and I do think like the players here, some of them are high enough to like put them out of relegation territory. I guess we only have one team left to talk about, but especially up against the final team we have to talk about.
Well, there's also like it feels like one of those relegation spots is a lock. So
yeah.
It's willing to
easier
say
to
both of them
dodge.
are a lock, but hey.
I like.
Now I'm saying it.
let's-
Both of them are a lock to me. Like I don't care what
Okay,
anyone thinks.
alright.
Both of them are a lock.
Let's move to our let's do the final
TS
one.
is
so we
the
can get-
biggest AMI fan. He loves those Ewoks, dude.
All right, let's round things out. Our final team is Winthrop University. This roster is Denethor, Wilson/Trickster. He has gone by Wilson most recently. Sword, mobility, and only 35. I have this team 8th.
9th.
9th. Oh no, not 9th. What am I
You have
saying?
them
8th. 8th.
All right.
And then
You have
TS
mine.
is the 9th.
Yep. So
TDS
I would
has gone
say-
first on every team since
Yeah,
Luminosity, but go for it, brother.
I didn't make the rules here. I
It
just
is true.
followed them.
We're too aligned. We're too much in consensus.
I've kind of learned that if I just go with every contradiction, like every what is it called? Like take that people will disagree with me,
Contrarian
I can
take.
just go
Contrarian,
first.
yeah.
Contrarian take, and I just go first. So perfect for me.
You're also like you're bound for like one of them to hit, so
Yeah.
you'll take the success rate over the.
I will say I believed in this one 100%. Like this is not a contrarian. I just do not have absolutely no hope and do not like Winthrop at all. I will just straight up say it. I also think that if Polestar hadn't did what they done, I would have put this team 10. Like even like they would just go one step below if Polestar was still alive, which they are technically, but to me they're dead. And the reasoning for this is that they are keeping their same collegiate roster with the upgrade of just 35, but I don't think it's like it's an upgrade, but not a significant upgrade, and not in a spot that I think needed a significant upgrade either. Like the thing with Winthrop is that originally I never thought their problem was bot lane nor support particularly. I think their problem was much more over on the top side of the map, not top lane, but particularly jungle and mid. And they didn't fix that. They didn't change that. So you're still going to keep some of the same problems that you had when you failed to qualify multiple times and are not really addressing them with the change in player. And I think that that's the biggest thing that keeps me away from Winthrop. And also one of the things that we were talking about before we started was like Winthrop keeping the same roster that failed to qualify so many times for one player. And this is something that I had like mentioned with collegiate way before when collegiate teams were trying to get into the NACL, is that collegiate teams were kind of forced into this. Because you cannot like sign a player and then drop him immediately after, right? Like that's not how quote unquote collegiate teams work out. Like you need to keep that same roster at the very least for 2 years because they are bound to your your university. So you're forced to have those players there. You can do something similar to what Maribel did, but Maribel didn't drop players. They just added players on top of that, and then they can change depending on the situation. But the only one that went away is Scary Jerry, and it's because he went higher. But the rest of the players are still there. Like I remember even Getback and Odd Orange were still on Maribel, just that they weren't on the main roster. They were on the lower roster. So that's the thing with collegiate teams. You're never dropping your players really until they graduate or they go to a different college. And that's going to be a problem if you're like a similar team to Winthrop, where you didn't have a great base, or your base wasn't necessarily NACL caliber, and then you didn't add anything on top of that. So you're just stuck with an NACL team that wasn't NACL caliber, and the previous team that was NACL caliber is here, but in a potentially much better team than yours, which is quote unquote Tempest.
Conviction. Yeah. What's funny here is Winthrop could very well find themselves in the future if they're able to hold on to the spot as a kind of getting into the Maryville kind of sweet spot that they've gotten for themselves in recent years, which is that as money continues to dry up elsewhere in the scene, more and more players will turn to collegiate to get some economic value out of their talents, and you can just kind of scoop up some of the most competitive players in the region outside of tier 1, right? Like just this last offseason, Maryville, they just get Sejed and Toasty and Shimmer all just like through osmosis, because they're the most attractive landing spot for all these sorts of players who in the past might have been on academy teams like Sejed was, or just tried to compete on independent orgs for a regular paycheck.
So the thing is that now, like looking into that as well, you have Ole Miss, right? And Ole Miss now, quote unquote, can try and do the similar thing with a much stronger roster. And I think I feel like particularly we need to focus on that part of staying up there, right? Because like sadly for Winthrop, this is the same roster that has failed to qualify multiple times, bar just 35. So my question would be, do you think this roster can re-qualify if they end up getting demoted?
Yeah, I do.
It depends on.
I don't even have them getting demoted. I think they'll be.
I don't have them. I don't have them getting
if they get demoted, like, do you see them requalifying? It's kind of my question there.
Yes.
Well,
So,
it depends on what OQs look like,
depends on a
right?
lot of
Like,
things.
yeah, like is Citadel running back OQs? Are all 5 of those players finding?
I can see, like, one of the things that I see there is that there's the universe that ex-Polestar plays Sokus now. Yeah, but they also 100% destroy Winthrop. So now you're, quote unquote, one more plays there. And that's where, like, that's why I don't have any belief in Winthrop, in the current iteration of Winthrop, I will say. If it's a different version, I can see them becoming better. But this current one, I have no hope.
I think that's just like a very like future conversation, because like
true.
we have to play this whole split out to like kind of like bring us back to talk about Winthrop, like going ahead of the season. I think going back to talking about Side.GG Combine, Jarquinks was very impressive. Mobility was the one that went to Korea, right? Like he was the one that they sent to the Korean boot camp, was really good. He's looked he's looked almost leveled up for Winthrop. I don't think Winthrop nearly beat Ole Miss in NACC if it's not for mobility. And I'm willing to give him such a discount on the 7-0 Misfortune game that he threw, because Misfortune is like so dependent on a lot of other things to really succeed past laning phase. But I think mobility in only 35. I'm higher on only 35. It sounds like some people have been from collegiate. I think he's an upgraded support. I like his gumption in playing these engaged supports. His Alistair is absolutely cracked. So mobility in only 35 are a bottom lane that I think it will surprise some. I think Denethor is going to thrive in a much more weakened top lane pool. My issue for Winthrop, and why I don't have them above Conviction or competing in CCG, I do not think Wilson and Sword in 2025 are going to be able to compete as a mid-jungle duo on a team that really needs them to be reliable. So I have them at 8th because of that. If I'm wrong about Wilson and Sword, like, I'll admit it, but like stacking up all these other mid-jungles, like there's like only one that I would take them over, and I still think the other one has like better upside.
Yeah.
So I guess 2, because we don't know Pulse, but like discounting them,
That's
right?
the only one I will take them over, to be honest.
You would take Low Jazz and 5 Mini over Wilson and Sword?
Yep.
That's crazy.
100%.
I mean,
Okay.
Listen. I agree with Slayer's point. Like, I think Trickster and I'm calling him Trickster. I think Trickster and Sword in 2K25.
You're gonna dead name Wilson.
You're gonna dead name
It's
Wilson.
just like I don't know. I feel like every time we see these guys compete in the NACL, it's just like it's not that they're inting, and it's not that they're like actively playing bad. It's just that they're not getting anything done. Like it kind of feels.
Wilson. I guess we saw him play on AOE.
I guess we saw him play on AOE
very briefly. Wilson, we barely even seen at the NACL level.
Yeah, like Wilson, like Trickster and Sword. Like I think it's just the fact that this is probably the least proactive mid-jungle duo that we have in the entire league. And when you have got strong side laners, like I think Mobility has leveled up. Like I think Mobility is actually a really good AD carry now, and I'm really excited to see, you know, him be more unlocked, because I think the current meta for AD carries has allowed things like Jinx to be a lot more popular. Like I think if Winthrop want to run just like a front-to-back comp, or front-to-back style with like Mobility on Jinx, and then you just put Sword on like Galio, Trickster on like Zinzao, and just all of these space makers that allow Mobility to be kind of the playmaker of the team. Like I could see that realistically working, but like before team fights, it really feels like this team doesn't have a very proactive style of game. And when you've got, you know, objective spawning left, right, and fucking center, these guys are at risk of just having the game run away from them. Right? Like if they're not able to net advantages on neutrals, if they're not able to net advantages during that dead time, then it really feels like they're just going to fall behind. And I see all of these other rosters, I see all these other mid-jungle duos, and I think like they can probably get more done in, you know, the time that they're given than Winthrop's mid-jungle duo. Like I feel like Trickster and Sword just aren't proactive. That's like their biggest falling as a mid-jungle duo. Like I think only 35 and Mobility are a really good bot lane. I think Denethor, I have gone on record saying I'm not super high on Denethor. Like, I know a ton of people who really like him. Like, I know Hawk really likes him. I know there's a ton of Seagull fans that really like him. And he is, you know, partially the lifeblood of Winthrop. And I think he's good, but I feel like he's a little bit overrated, personally. Like, I don't think he is going to make a difference in this team's standings. Like, I don't think he will actively hurt this team. I do not think he will actively help this team. And unfortunately, that goes in line with the rest of the top side. So I could see this team, you know, being, I 100% think this team is better than AMI. Just off of experience alone, these guys are better than AMI, in my opinion. I'm hoping, like, I think they'll probably be better than Polestar. And I do think that there is definitely a world where they can challenge Conviction. Like, I think them and Conviction will certainly have it out for each other, which I think will be super cool. Like Aaron versus Mobility being, you know, kind of the next generation of AD carries. That'll be a really cool storyline to talk about if you're an NACL caster. But like as far as performance goes, there just isn't a lot to say. Like we've seen this team before multiple times. Like, and you know, there isn't much to be said that hasn't already been spoken thousands of times over. Hell, even on this podcast, like we have talked about this team so fucking much on this podcast that.
I was gonna say, if OQ games were in Games of Legends and you could use that like match search feature to look for past games that have been played, I bet you could find a ton of examples from OQs of the last couple of years of most of this Winthrop roster playing against most of this Apex roster, and Winthrop winning every single time. It would be like the same teams except no 5 mini on Apex and no only 35 on Winthrop. And I do think only 35 is an upgrade at support for this team. He's been pretty good coming over from Europe to play here. He has done pretty well so far, really high up on our solo queue. So I think he'll be good, but I don't think it's going to massively impact my rating of this team. So for the most part, you know, I think this is going to be kind of the same Winthrop that we have seen try and fail to promote into NACL multiple times in the past. Yeah, I'm excited for Denethor's sophomore split. I think Mobility looked good during the limited games that he got last year as well, but it is the mid jungle that kind of sinks this for me. I'm just not very high on the Wilson Sword mid jungle duo, so I'm gonna have this team pretty low, closer probably to the ninth
All
than
right.
the
Look,
seventh.
I'll just
So-
say you guys should have more hope on the Ewoks. They've destroyed the Stormtroopers before, and they will do it again.
All right, I'm gonna kill the metaphor there. To wrap things up, we can go through our final rankings really quick from top to bottom. It is Dark Zero in first, Luminosity and Near Airport tied at second, Blue Otter at fourth, Supernova at fifth, CCG at sixth, Tempest / Contingent or Conviction rather at seventh, Winthrop at eighth, Apex at ninth, and Pulse at 10th. So that is where our consensus rankings sit. Oh, and one more final housekeeping thing. We're probably going to have to change the day that we drop because of the new NACL schedule. Because dropping on Friday mornings when games are being played Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would be stupid. So probably going to start doing episodes Mondays or maybe Tuesdays. We will figure that out after the season starts. But we'll be back. We'll be back in probably like a week and a half now with breakdowns from week number 1. So be sure to stay tuned. Be sure to check out the NACL when it starts next Wednesday. And we will see you guys next time.